Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're very happy to welcome you to our live broadcast tonight. My name is Marilyn Mangian, and I am the Director of Recruitment and Strategic Initiatives for the College of Engineering in Indianapolis. And we have an hour planned with you tonight. You can probably see where you can put, here's what we're planning. If you have questions, you can put them in the chat. Some of the questions will be answered live by the panel that you're seeing here. Some of the questions will be answered in a public chat and some will be answered in a private chat. The most important thing is that you leave with all your questions answered. We have several students here with you tonight. We have one who is from the West Lafayette location and two students who are from the Indianapolis location. Musa, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Yeah. Hi everybody, my name is Musa, and I'm a sophomore student at Purdue in Indianapolis, studying motorsports engineering. I can provide some insight on like student life and what it's like here in Indianapolis.
Jacob, how about you next?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob G. I'm a senior studying mechanical engineering here at Purdue, Indianapolis. And yeah, born and raised here in Indy, so I'm excited to let you guys know how the city is.
Awesome. And Abby, are you, I think we have a industrial engineering student from the West Lafayette location. She will be giving the presentation tonight. Abby, do you want to introduce yourself quickly?
Hi, I'm Abby. I'm originally from Minnesota and currently a senior studying Lafayette campus.
Okay, and with that, I'm going to turn this over to Abby for just a brief moment to give a little bit more than a brief moment, maybe 10 minutes or so, you think, Abby, to give a presentation about just a little bit of an overview about what industrial engineering is. And we'll go from there and start taking questions and all that. Okay, Abby, it's all yours.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys all for taking the time. We're super excited that you have been admitted as industrial engineering students and can't wait to share a little bit more about what it's like at Purdue. But we'll start by just kind of diving into what industrial engineering is. So it's all about human integrated systems. So many things in our world are a system when it's broken down, and IE is about improving that however we can. A lot of this times it shows up in health systems like hospital optimization. How are we making sure that an operating room is set up the best way that it can be? Are we spending our money on a construction project in the correct way? Should we spend it somewhere else? The classic supply chain, how can we make sure that we're getting things from point A to point B as quickly as possible? In all of these different industries you see on the screen, our IEs end up working in industries like these or very closely adjacent to them. And then a lot of the time we have industries like manufacturing. So cars are a big one for sure. And so there's a lot that goes into that. And we'll talk a little bit more. For example, what is the best material to use for the product that we are creating? What's the best piece of technology that we should buy for our plant? When will that piece of technology deteriorate? When should we replace it? What's the best working space design for our workers so that they can work safely and efficiently? So more of that human factors side of it. And then how do we know that our design is the best option or that it's functioning appropriately over time? And all these different things kind of go into the bigger picture, and IEs will work on them. So everything from working in suppliers to production plants to assembly, IEs really have a step in every single one of these areas. So once again, just more every step of the way, there's questions that can arise. But also a different industry that a lot of IEs work in is the entertainment industry. So if you've ever been at Disneyland or a theme park and you're waiting in a line, we do have a lot of alumni that end up working for Disney. And so making sure that your waiting experience is at least enjoyable, or how can we make it go faster even. So lots of different industries that IEs can go into, and lots of different systems. And at its core, that's what it's all about, is improving these systems and continually trying to make them better and more efficient. So why Purdue IE? We are consistently highly ranked, and we have the second largest IE program in the United States, as well as a ton of alumni that have spanned all across America and also the world. So definitely a wonderful network there. And I know from all my experiences with our alumni, they are just so excited to help the next generation of Boilermaker IEs. So there's lots of mentoring programs that we offer to make those connections and kind of help you navigate being an IE. And then we have about 760 plus students that are registered per semester. That number kind of fluctuates because a good portion of our students do internships or co-ops. So that kind of makes it fluctuate a bit. And then we also have a 68 to 32% male to female ratio. There's 33% of our population is represented in these races. And we also have 20% of students that are international, and 60% of our students are like non-residents, which means they're not from the state of Indiana. We also have a 96% placement rate for job placement following graduation, and about 80 grand starting salary. So those are all the fun numbers. But if you want what people actually have to say about Purdue IEs, this quote was pulled from Industrial Roundtable. It's a really large career fair we run here in the fall. And a recruiter, after a day full of recruiting, said that almost every person we chatted with was strong, well-rounded, and understood both the importance of the technical and business side. So that's kind of what sets apart us as Purdue IEs. And these are some of the industries that are common, or companies a lot of our alumni have gone on to work for. So lots of big names are represented there. And it's also a very diverse spread of companies, which I think makes IE really cool, because they're not really limited to one specific industry. You can really make an impact in whatever industry interests you the most. And then a lot of the time, our job titles are not actually industrial engineers. So for example, looking at the Ford group, they might be labeled as a plant group manager or a product design engineer, and maybe a manufacturing engineer as well. That one's a little closer to what our typical titles look like, but it definitely can also be like, I'm returning to my internship that was with Deloitte following graduation this spring. And so I'll be starting as an analyst, a tech solutions analyst there. And then some upper level positions I might hold there would be a consulting manager or a senior consultant. So once again, not that IE title per se, but a lot of different careers we can take. And then here is just some more. And if I remember correctly, these are actually roles that alumni have had. They weren't just pulled from Google searches or things like that, but actual Purdue IE alums have held each of these roles. And then kind of the different courses that you will take as a Purdue IE are all outlined up here. As a senior, I have taken just about all of these ones. So the first kind of category you see is human factors and human systems. Those were really interesting because it kind of ties in psychology as well as just how humans operate in different environments. So was kind of a different hat to put on, which is one of the things I've liked most about IE, is you kind of put on a lot of different hats through a lot of your different classes. So that one was definitely focused on how humans are interacting with the scenarios. So I just took 486 last semester, and we actually got to redesign what Spotify looks like, so that way it might be more user friendly. So everything from app design to, in 386, it was definitely more focused on actual workspaces, like if you were working in a manufacturing plant. And then that kind of ties nicely into production and systems. So I have only taken 383 from this one because 484 is like selective. You get to pick between a couple, but I took 383. It was incredibly applicable for a lot of my friends' internships that they have had. This one definitely is closer tied to supply chain as well as facility layout. So designing a manufacturing plant and like where everything should be perfectly orientated. And that was just really cool because that was kind of a accumulation of a lot of different courses. And it's taught by Professor Yi, who is one of are very, very well known and respected professors here. So it was just a very insightful class to take. And then manufacturing 370 and 470, I was able to take both of those. 470 utilizes our Build at Scale lab, which is incredible. And I will talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But we got to 3D print a couple of things as well as make a nameplate using our CNC mills. So definitely a really cool and hands-on experience there in 470. And then decision-making and operations research, we hit on that in those classes, utilized a lot of different softwares to run different modelings. And I am actually pretty heavily reliant on my OR classes for my senior design project that I'm in right now, which is 431. And then a class that I definitely want to make sure we highlight is 332 or computing in IE. This is consistently one of the classes that students rank really highly as why it's definitely a tougher one, but students definitely have a lot of respect for it just because of how much it teaches you and how applicable it is when you get out in industry. So I literally think that class is why I got a couple of my internships. So definitely a tough one, but it definitely teaches you a lot and you learn a bunch of different languages. We learned SQL, PHP, HTML, and a couple other things. And our professor that teaches that course is currently working on integrating AI and how large like learning models, LLMs, work into that course as well, because that's the direction that industry is heading. And then within this curriculum, you do have a lot of flexibility to make it what you want it to be. So personally, I have a minor in engineering and public policy. About 50% of our students do have a minor of some sort because we have tech electives and selectives that are built into your curriculum. And there is a lot of overlap with different programs. So that means you can kind of concentrate in an area that is of interest to you. Otherwise, you can kind of mix and match and just choose to learn about a lot of different things. Certificates are another really popular way to learn about another niche. I know our semiconductor certificate is growing in popularity, and then I have a lot of friends also pursuing systems certificates. And we also have some like more ways that you can diversify your education. 1 or 2 rotations for that. And then study abroad is also very, very popular here. There's a lot of partner programs that we send students to, and they have a wonderful experience doing that. And then this is that Build at Scale lab that I touched on earlier. So my freshman year, this building opened up, and so that was a couple years ago. And it is a state-of-the-art facility. You actually get to kind of experience what it would be like to be on a manufacturing plant and working with these different machines. And we're really good at using it for a lot of our different classes. So 470, I definitely used this the most because that is a manufacturing class, but also some of our other ones got us in there for running time studies or just like facility layout, different things like that. And so really, really great stuff we have happening in there, and excited to see how they continue to use this space. And then these are some of our other labs we have. So the one that shows the person is actually like has little scanners that cover your body, and it kind of does the same thing as CGI if you've ever watched a movie that's had that involved in it, and it can replicate the person's movements. They've used it for a lot of professional athletes, for example, breaking down how a track star would come off of a starting block and seeing if the angle of their knee and the force that they're leaving with has anything to do with their performance and different metrics like that. So really cool that we're able to have that right here on campus. And then the lower one is our measurements lab. So we have all sorts of different machinery in there that can take really, really precise measurements. And so that we've used for like some quality control labs that we've had. And then, like I touched on earlier, study abroad is definitely possible if that's something you are interested in. We offer both short-term and long-term programs. I know my roommate did a full semester abroad in Spain last spring, and she had a phenomenal experience. I also know we offer a couple of short-term short-term projects / travel. One really popular one is thermodynamics. You can take that for, I think it's a Maymester, and it's a couple of weeks. And that way you get that one class taken care of, and you don't necessarily have to leave campus for a whole semester. There's also lots of opportunities to do research, both during the school year or over summer. And you can also do research abroad as well, which is definitely a really cool opportunity. And then within our school, we have a ton of different student organizations that are all incredibly supported by the school, which is something I've been very grateful for. I served as the president of the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers last year, which was just an incredible experience. I had a couple of other positions within that before I took that last role, so definitely was able to have professional development as I moved through different roles there, which I'm definitely very grateful for, because that's not something necessarily taught in your classes. So great that we have other outlets to kind of get that experience of managing a team or kind of negotiating with other stakeholders and things like that. And we have the Ergonomics Society. WISE is the Women in Industrial and Systems Engineering. APM is that one with the triangle. That is our honor society here on campus for industrial engineering specifically. We also have Informs. And then those two at the bottom, Purdue Solutions and Purdue Think, they're two of our consulting clubs that we have on campus. There is quite a few other consulting organizations on campus as well, but these are just the ones that are listed on the slides. But through a lot of these different interactions, have been able to meet different alumni. IISE, or the Institute of Industrial and Systems Engineers, also puts on a career fair every semester, and it's only for industrial engineering students to attend. So that has been both an incredible experience to attend it as a student looking for internships, but also being able to help run it in my older years here. And then there is lots of other, like I mentioned, the Sigma Career Fair that we offer both semesters is a great way to look for industry connections and internships. And then Industrial Roundtable is ran at the school level, and that is a bigger career fair. And then there's also lots of different ways to like work with student startups. And if you like want to start a student organization, the School of IE has had incredible, like if you have a great idea, they really want to help you see it through. So definitely don't shy away from starting your own idea if you have one. And then, like I mentioned earlier, there's lots of alumni engagement. We have a sophomore seminar class that brings back alumni to speak at, as well as senior design. A lot of the time, the project champions for that are alumni from Purdue. And we also have two-way mentoring. I had a two-way mentor, and she was incredible in just kind of answering my silly questions and also my very serious ones and kind of guiding me along the way. So grateful for the mentorship that she had, as well as we host little panels like the 38 by 38 is an award that is named after Neil Armstrong in a sense, because he was 38 when he walked on the moon. So they bring back 38 distinguished alumni who are under the age of 38. And this past fall, we were actually honored to have 8 alumni selected for that prestigious award. So they came back and did a panel, and it was pretty incredible. I got to attend that one, and it was a great panel. It was a mix of great insights, but also just great personalities. And then we also have professional development in certifications. IISE sponsors a Six Sigma certification and a Lean Green Belt certification, one per semester, as well as they host a lot of different company networking events. And the school sponsors different plant tours so that you can really get that experience of what it might be like in future careers. So what's next for Purdue IE? We are so excited to be adding IE in Indianapolis. So it's focused on industry because you are right there in Indy where so much of our industry is. And so your first 2 years in Indianapolis, you'll have 6 industry visits in your first year and then an embedded work experience in year 2. And then your third and your fourth years would be up here at the West Lafayette campus. This is because those great lab spaces that I talked about earlier are located up here. And that's just a great way to kind of bridge the two campuses together. It's definitely going to be really focused on experiential learning, and it's very, very industry driven with a lot of professional development and alumni engagement right from the start. So yeah, I think that's all we have, but if you want to learn more, definitely feel free to scan this QR code.
Abby, does the QR code go to, does it go to the industrial engineering department? Does it go to Elizabeth, or do you know?
I do
You're
not
not
know.
100% sure. It's okay. I put you on the spot. I'm sure it's a great way to get more information, but we'll have contact information for all of you at the end. When if you want to connect with others specifically in IE. And we are starting to have some questions come in. But I do want to touch a bit first on how you talk your one slide that you talked about the 2+2. I know that's one of the questions I'm seeing is, can you explain the 2+2 program? So as Abby, showed on the slide, students, those of you who are admitted, to the Indianapolis campus, you are directly admitted to the program. So you are an industrial engineering student from day one. You will do your first 2 years here in Indy, but that does not mean this program, especially, I think it's pretty special because you will have you'll have a foot on both locations, I think, at all times. Here in Indianapolis, as Abby said, it will be very much industry focused and experiential learning. And so you will have a few things here that perhaps students, at the West Lafayette location, it is a little bit different because students are starting in first year engineering. They're not starting directly into their major. So I kind of feel like the students in Indy, you are going to get a head start in this industry area right away. And it is embedded from day one. So, those of you chose industrial engineering for a reason, I think this is going to be a really good fit for all of you. The last, years 3 and 4, it is a seamless transition to the West Lafayette location. There is a shuttle bus right now already for all students that runs back and forth between both locations, and it runs during the week 8 times a day. So there's no reason you can't get back and forth. I hope that's helpful. I hope that answers the question about the 2+2 program. If you have other questions about it, put it in the chat, okay? Because we want to make sure that your questions get answered. But basically, you're starting here, you're following the curriculum, except there are some embedded things for Indianapolis students that that students are not getting on the West Lafayette location because you're directly admitted into the program. So let's see. The next question is, would you recommend joining the learning communities? I think this is a student life question, and I'm going to move it to one of the Indianapolis students. Musa, do you want to talk about this?
Yeah, sure. Um, learning communities, if you haven't heard of them, are basically like communities of people that are, for the most part, housed together and they have similar interests. For example, I was a part of the motorsports learning community my freshman year, and so everybody on my floor, I lived in Lux, which is like the more so apartment style housing option here in Indianapolis. But everybody on my floor was part of the motorsports learning community, meaning that everybody was either a motorsports engineer or had an interest in motorsports. And our RA was also like a person who was interested in motorsports. So every like week or so, we'd have like events such as like a Formula One watch party, or like even things outside of motorsports relations, like painting vinyls or baking cookies and things like that. But I definitely recommend joining a learning community because I mean, it's a way for you to like connect with people are who have similar interests as you and like sort of decompress outside of school and just like connect with people, and it's pretty fun.
Okay, great. Thanks. Abby, did you have anything you want to add about that? I know it's more the West Lafayette perspective, but I think it could be, were you part of a learning community? If not, it's okay.
I wasn't part of one, but I kind of wish I was at times. There's a women in engineering learning community here at Purdue in West Lafayette, and that one does a ton of cool programming events, kind of like he was talking about with the F1 watch party. I know they had a lot of fun, like different events they put on. So definitely does a lot to build community on campus.
And we do have the women in engineering group here as well. And I know the person who is, runs it. It's very well connected. I guess that's one of the things we just really need to keep emphasizing. There are two different locations, but everything is very much connected, and women in engineering is women in engineering, whether it's in West Lafayette or whether it's here in Indy. And I think that's terrific. We do have a question for Abigail. Someone's asking, what does IE research look like? Can you talk about that a little bit, Abby?
Yes, so it definitely depends what you are interested in. There are professors doing all sorts of different research here on campus. So I have one friend who is doing research with one of our professors who is working on like healthcare related research. So it's kind of focused on how diseases spread and how do we anticipate when diseases are going to spike and things like that. It's very data heavy. And she just got involved with that this year, actually, by reaching out to the professor who then connected her with a PhD student that she is now supporting as the PhD student does her own research. And then it's also sometimes more lab heavy. I know a couple of people who are working on creating. So for example, if a baby goes to the ER and they need to put on it's like the thing that monitors like your brain signals, those are like too heavy at times for babies. So they're working on creating like a very thin sticker of sorts that would do the same exact thing as the helmet that usually goes on to individuals who might need to use that. So it's everything from very data heavy to very in the lab, like trying out different things, manufacturing different things. It definitely depends on which professor you connect with. And the route that I would definitely recommend is researching what the professors are doing. And they usually are pretty good about listing that. And then a lot of the time it's just setting up a quick meeting with that professor or connecting with them. And then they connect you with the actual PhD students who might be doing the more specific work that you are interested in.
Awesome. Thanks. Okay. We have another question that's for all the panelists. So I will start with Jacob and then Musa. But what kind of clubs are you involved in?
Yeah, so here at Purdue, there's a lot of clubs and a lot of opportunities to join them. There's kind of like three categories that I kind of envision them as. So we have our professional development clubs, we have just like the social clubs, and then like intramurals, which are not really clubs, but it's sort of like a good way to join organized sports here on campus. For professional organizations, those are the ones that I think are the best by far. SHIP is the main one that I was a part of, which is Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. It's an organization where we host different kind of career fairs. We have a national organization that we can go to their career fairs. We get to talk to alumni, students from other schools, and just connect with them. There's also NESB for Black engineers, WE, as we mentioned, for women engineers, ASME for American Society of Mechanical Engineers. So there's a lot of different options. And in these organizations, they're non-discriminatory. So you can be a biomedical engineer or IE joining the ASME, or you could, if you're not Latino, you can still join SHIP. So those are great. There's also the social organizations. Like I've been to a couple events for the ping pong club. So I've just, been playing ping pong after school. It's pretty fun. And then for intramurals, I've been able to play pickleball, volleyball, soccer. And I'm just, if I want to join it by myself, I can. I can just enlist as a free agent, or I can also recruit some friends of mine and then create a team and just play that way.
Jacob, you're wearing me out. All the things you're involved in. Musa, I know you're involved in a few things too. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things you're involved in or you know of? But I know you're involved.
Yeah, so as Jacob was saying, there's lots of like ways to get involved here. I'm currently a member of two clubs, like mainly, or three clubs mainly. The Motorsports Engineering Club, which is like the main overall motorsports club. The Endurance Racing Club, which is similar to the Motorsports Club, but more focused on a specific form of racing. And then I also help out with Professional Practice Ambassadors, which is basically like a professional development club where we host networking events as well as like career fairs and stuff for people who or to get people connected into the industry. I also like was involved with the music club a bit. We have like a bunch of small groups within the music club, like a jazz band, a rock band, a string quartet, as well as a bunch of other things that are starting up as well. Um, I was going to be a part of the jazz band, but I ended up not uh, doing that. I didn't end up having time, but one of my friends is, and he goes around and performs around campus as well as like around the city, and the rest of the music club also does things like that as well, and it's pretty fun. It's nice to listen to them as well. Um, yeah, plenty of things to do and ways to get involved around campus here.
Okay, I'm learning some more things. You both are wearing me out a little bit. Okay, the next question is what kind of projects do IE students work on and when will we start working on them? Abby, I think I'm gonna let you talk about that, okay?
Definitely. So I know I touched on the senior design project and that you just do one of the semesters your senior year, and it's 1 semester long. It is sponsored by an industry partner and you actually work for that company doing that project that whole semester. And then you get to present kind of throughout the semester your findings, and those projects vary from all sorts of different things. I know one of the projects I was interested in was with a company looking to put different construction sites and where should they stage their aggregates like gravel and dirt for the best like trips if they have to make a lot of trips back and forth to it. And then the project I actually ended up on is working on improving the delivery time of a client. So it's very data heavy, and we're working with a couple of different stakeholders to try to figure out what exactly we want to relay. But other projects are embedded throughout pretty much every semester you take. They just kind of vary. I know that 332 class I mentioned, computing and industrial engineering, we built a website that was what a fake manufacturing plant could have used to monitor their inventory. And it was really incredible because it was one of the first things I built from scratch. And I know my freshman year, I also had a couple of group projects. One was focused on sustainability in the dining courts and creating different suggestions to offer Purdue dining that would help improve the sustainability. So I would say almost every single semester I have had at least one group project, and they definitely vary in how hands-on they are compared to how theoretical they are.
The other thing I might add to this is everyone in the Indianapolis location, they will start with EPICS and VIP, which are both, EPICS is more projects and community service and VIP is research. And every student on the Indianapolis campus will start in these areas too. So it's something that is just automatic that's built into the curriculum here in Indianapolis. So it's lots and lots of opportunities to get started early, not only to connect with industry, but also to get connected on projects. Okay, let's see what the next question that is popping up for me is, does Purdue offer assistance obtaining internships and co-ops? And you know what, Musa, I mean, I can answer this, but I think it's more impactful sometimes coming from the students. Musa, we do have an office of professional practice, and the fact that you mentioned the club that you're part of, I think that you can talk about this. And Jacob, if you want to talk about it a little bit too, and then if I need to, I'll add some other things to it.
Yeah. So, as Marilyn mentioned, we have the Office of Professional Practice here, which is basically like an organization that's dedicated to helping students develop professionally as well as like help get careers for students. They have like a platform, for example, where you can apply for internships as well as like attend networking events and see like when career fairs are and like sort of RSVP for things like that. OPP is also in charge of this class called Engineering 103, which is like a 1 credit seminar course that you'll take your freshman year. And it's basically just a class where you you're developed professionally. So they help you build your resume, build your networking statement. They have companies come in and give presentations to the class as a whole, and you'll learn about like what it's like working at those organizations and companies, what they expect from an employee, what they want to see on your resume, like things like that. And the class, like just as a whole, is just really good for helping you develop as a person professionally. So like after taking it, I felt way more confident in like going to career fairs and networking with like companies and people from companies and stuff like that. As well as like more comfortable going to career fairs. But yeah, and then professional practice ambassadors is also sort of under OPP in a sense, and so they help us out with like setting up our events and things like that.
Hey, Jacob, do you want to add?
Yeah, so some other resources that we have here on campus are the CCO office, which they are focused on just making sure all these students can get internships, full-time offers, co-ops, whatever you may need. We also have the OWL, the in-person writing lab through Purdue. So this resource allows you to get mock interviews, resume help, anything you need, cover letters, they'll make sure that it looks perfect for the employer. So yeah.
And I think the only thing that I would add to that is it's not just about the career fairs. We get a lot of questions about how many career fairs there are. And students, there are career fairs happening here in Indianapolis, and there are career fairs happening at the West Lafayette location, and students go to both. The Industrial Roundtable, Abby mentioned that earlier, and it is a very large career fair, and students from Indianapolis attend that. But we also have smaller career fairs here. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's not just about these career fairs. It's about companies coming in and doing informational sessions, or alums coming back and doing networking sessions. These things are going on, I mean, at both locations all the time. So there are lots of opportunities to connect and, you know, to prepare yourself and to know how to put yourself forward to get, to move on and do internships and then secure a full-time job. So I think I've said enough about that, but there's just so much opportunity. If someone doesn't take advantage of those, and we really encourage students to do, I just feel really confident that that's not going to be an issue for someone to get an internship or someone to get a full-time job if they're taking advantage of all the opportunities here. Okay, this is where we're going back and forth again. I've got a question that's on my screen about what is the social life like in Indianapolis? So Jacob, I'm going to start with you and then Musa.
Yeah, so I would say the social life is what you make it. We are in a big city or a decent sized city, so there's plenty of things to do here and around the city as well. We have things like Top Golf, bowling, mini golf. You can swim, you can ride your bike around the city. You can do virtually whatever you want here. So I think that's really cool. In terms of the campus, it's really about the people that you surround yourself with. There are people that are doing things every weekend. There are people who are focusing on their studies. So it's really just which group that you're a part of. There are also a lot of on-campus events that are happening on a weekly basis. So whichever opportunities you want to take advantage of, that's how your social life will be looking in Indianapolis.
Musa, are there certain things you've done in the city that you'd like to talk about? You know, Jacob gave ideas, but is there something in specific that you really enjoyed doing in the city or on campus, either one?
Yeah. I mean, as Jacob said, it is a city, so there's lots to do. For example, I'll find myself going to like Pacers games or concerts sometimes, as well as like maybe to the IMS for like a race event, because they do have a couple of those throughout the school year. Um, Sometimes Purdue will give out free tickets to like Pacers games and stuff. So I know like last year, for example, they gave out tickets to one of the Pacers games, and you just had to come to the ET building to claim your ticket, and you could go to the game. So that's pretty fun, and there's also lots of other opportunities to just go out and do things out in the city.
Okay, perfect. And there are things going on campus as well, but the city is right here, so it makes it really, a lot of it is very much walkable. Um, Okay, so the next question I have is, would it be hard to start collaborating with local businesses in Indianapolis? And I can take this, unless Abby, do you have some insight first on this? No? Okay. This is the whole point. I'm happy to take this question. This is, one of the strongest things I think that with industrial engineering coming to Indianapolis, the industry is right next door. And I know there are a lot of alums here who are industrial engineering alums, and it is just built into the curriculum. The fact that there are 6 industry visits in year 1, and it wouldn't surprise me if it didn't end up being more, but 6 is what I think is planned, because companies just randomly will say, I think, or maybe randomly is not the right word, but they are very welcoming. And from what I understand, opening their doors, having students come in, doing tours, that kind of thing. And Purdue, of course, is, folks want to partner. So it makes a lot of sense to have industrial engineering right here in Indianapolis because so much industry is here. I hope that answers the question enough, but I know that there are a lot of things already in the works. So the next question, and I am going to give this to you, Abby, since you are, what do you wish you knew before starting the IE program?
That is a good question. I think I wish, and I definitely could have known this if I looked a little bit further into like the other courses you have to take, but we do take a lot of mechanical engineering classes as well as electrical engineering classes as well, and even a nuclear engineering class. And I don't think I really knew that coming into it. And so I was definitely a little surprised. And my mechanical engineering classes really, really challenged me at first. And I ended up having to take those before the IE classes. So I definitely kind of wish I was prepared for that, because part of me was like, oh gosh, I don't know if this is the major that I thought it was, but it ended up prepping me so well for the IE classes I had later on. And why Purdue IE does that is it makes us so well-rounded at the end of the day, because we've had the experience in those other classes. And so we don't do the deep dive into mechanical engineering, we don't do the deep dive into nuclear engineering, but we take like their first entry level class. And so we do get exposed to the stuff that they're going to learn. And so I guess I kind of wish I had a better understanding of that starting out, so I wasn't so kind of scared away at first, if that makes sense.
Well, it couldn't have scared you too much because look at you now, you're here and you're ready to finish your BS, and yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's a really good explanation of what industrial engineering is. And it shows students who are here on the panel, or not on the panel, I'm sorry, in the audience, of what to expect. So now they know it too, right? Okay, so here's one for all of the panelists, and I will start with Musa and then Jacob, and then Abby, if you want to chime in, is what is your favorite memory at Purdue?
This is a pretty hard question to answer just because I sort of have a different answer every time I see it. But honestly, like just thinking back right now, I would say like one of my favorite memories is like going out to the IMSA Battle on the Bricks race with all of my friends my freshman year. If you haven't heard of it, it's like this 6-hour race that they have every year here in Indianapolis, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I went back in September 2024 with like my whole friend group, and I sort of got to know them like a lot more, as well as like I got to like for the first time network with like racing companies and the motorsports industry and stuff like that. And it was like just a great experience overall.
For me, this is a pretty tough question. I would say my sophomore year, I was elected president of one of those student organizations, SHIP, and we had a national conference in Charlotte, North Carolina. So again, in my sophomore year, I was able to raise a bunch of money, and I believe we took 8 students to Charlotte, and it was just a weekend of fun, learning new things, meeting people from other schools who had similar stories as us, getting internships. It was it was very fun. And then, just living life in a new city for a weekend, it was a really cool time.
Plus, it sounds like you got a sense of accomplishment with that too, right? Yeah. Okay. And Abby, how about you?
I would say my sophomore year, the day of the eclipse fell on the same day as when Purdue was competing for the national championship for basketball. And our professors canceled class for when the eclipse was happening. So everybody got to go and see it. And so it wasn't a full eclipse here in West Lafayette. I think Indy got the full eclipse. But that was just a lot of fun because both the basketball game happening and then also we have a lot of people who really, really, really like space up here. So definitely just lots of fun facts were flying around.
Okay. Thanks to all of you. Those are really good examples of fun times. Okay. So this would be for Jacob and Musa. What is your favorite place to study on the Indy campus and favorite place to hang out with friends on campus? Jacob, you want to start?
Yeah, so my favorite place to study on campus is in Innovation Hall. They have there's only two of them in the entire building too, but they have these personal study rooms. Um, and it has a really nice big window. It's a beautiful outlook. You can always see the sun setting if you're studying there at night. And yeah, it's just a great place to study. It's very clean. It's just like a really nice personal space. And then my favorite place to hang out with friends on campus, I would say it's campus adjacent, but the canal. I love just being outdoors, going for walks. And then there's also like a big open area. So if I wanted to play any sports, a lot of groups do that in that area. There's also like a waterfall and then an overlook over the White River. Yeah, so it's beautiful over there. So I'd say that.
Um, yeah, so I'd say my favorite place to study on campus would be the university library. Um, we have access to like a lot of shared spaces between here and IU Indy, and their university library is just a really nice area to like study and do work. It's pretty quiet as well. In terms of my favorite place to hang out with people on campus, similar to Jacob's answer, it's not necessarily on campus, but it's campus adjacent, and it would be like probably White River State Park. I was actually there earlier, right before this session, hanging out with two of my friends. It's just like a calm area where you can like relax, lie down, watch the river, and just look at like the sunset or something. It's just really calm.
Okay, great. I've got a next question that I love, and I think all three of you can answer it. And I have a feeling it's from someone from a warm climate. So, what is the coldest temperature that you walk to class in? Abby, do you want to start? Because whoever, i.e., they're going to be on both, both locations eventually, so they need to know about both.
Definitely. I would say definitely bring a winter jacket and be prepared to bundle up. It does get quite cold. I'm from Minnesota, so I do feel like I had a bit of a runway with dealing with the cold weather. And actually, when I go home, my mom now thinks I'm soft to the winter climate. But I would say there's definitely been quite a few cold days. So I've wanted my mittens, have wanted my scarf, have had my big winter parka on for a couple of the walks to class.
Jacob and Musa, you are both from Indiana, what's the coldest that you think you've walked to class in so far, and how bad was it? Musa, you want to go next?
I mean, I'm trying to remember here, but I believe like the coldest temperature that I walked to class in was the beginning of the spring 2025 semester last year. I think like it was post snowstorm, and it was like between the range of like 5 to 10 degrees outside walking to campus. So that was pretty crazy, but I was bundled up, so I wasn't like too cold or anything like that.
Yeah, I would agree. Maybe 10 degrees. But honestly, it's like the cold is it's easy to like to get used to, but when it's windy outside and it's cold, that combo is just it's it can be hard to deal with.
I do think you get used to it. You're right. It always amazes me, someone who comes from a warm climate, and at first they talk about how cold it is, and then it'll be, you know, 30 degrees out and they're wearing flip-flops or something. And I'm thinking, what the heck is that about? You know? So anyway, you do get used to it. Abby, you have done internships, right? Yep. Do you want to talk about what an IE internship looks like? What it looked like for you?
Yeah, there's definitely a wide variety of internships that you can have. I had one with the US State Department out in Washington, D.C., and I was on their sustainability team at the time, working to kind of see what our carbon footprint looked like and how switching to solar would change what that carbon footprint would look like. So that was one internship. And then last summer, I was with Deloitte, also out in Washington, D.C., but working on a ServiceNow implementation. So that one was more tech heavy and working on bringing a tech package to a client. Some of my friends have had manufacturing internships. Some have had more supply chain related ones. I know Procter & Gamble is a really, really popular internship a lot of my friends have had. And there they are usually at an actual fulfillment center. So really cool to be on the floor and seeing the actual work right then and there. I have a couple of friends who have also worked with United and they have gotten to do network planning. So like where the flights are going to and from and the best routes to take them and best times of day. It's a giant problem, and it's really cool to hear them break down the different things that they got to do. Even just getting a plane to a gate requires so many different things, and I have a lot more patience for airplane delays now after I heard all of the things that go into making them go on time. So definitely a very wide variety of options for internships.
And Jacob, I know that you are not an IE student, you're an ME student, but you mentioned before to me that a lot of your um, fellow interns at your internship are Purdue IE students. Do you want to talk a little bit about what your internship has been like? And
Yeah, so I've had two internships with PepsiCo, Frito-Lay. So it is a manufacturing internship. The title is supply chain, so we do, as Abigail mentioned earlier, it's not always the title that you're expecting. Um, but a lot of my the other interns were industrial engineers. So I got to hear about their experiences and how the position related to what they were doing in school, which it related a lot more than me as a mechanical engineer, but I still really enjoyed the work. Overall, we were tasked with basically doing efficiency for whatever department they placed us in. So with my two rotations, I've been in receiving and in packaging, and I'm basically just looking at the operations and figuring out what a specific task is, not working to the best of its ability, or if there's something that we can improve. I get to work with different kinds of people. I get to look into neighboring departments. So in being in receiving, we work with processing a lot because they need to know which ingredients we should be ordering. So being able to work with all those different groups and then putting it all together to figure out what's the best solution and to make things run better. That was essentially my internships, and it was really enjoyable.
okay, great. Thank you both. We have time for maybe I'm watching the time. We have a couple of more questions maybe. And Abby, I'm going to give this one to you. Would you describe the industrial engineering environment as very competitive or more collaborative?
I really like that question because it actually ties back to why I ended up choosing Purdue. I remember the tour guides just talking about how every single class they went into, it felt like it was such a collaborative environment rather than competitive. And I think it speaks a lot that now, having been through the experience, I can second that. Everyone here wants everyone to succeed. Like, we all do better together. Like, we all, like, you push me and I push you, and we both move up instead of it like me versus you, which I think has made all of us better here. And so it's just really fun to be surrounded by so many individuals who are working their hardest, but it also pushes you to work just as hard as them, but not in a competitive sense, but in a like, let's all be the best together sense. So I really like that question. And I would definitely say it's much more collaborative than competitive here.
You love the question and I love the answer. I mean, I think that's a perfect answer. Okay, this question I think could probably be our last question. What kind of advice would you give an incoming student who will be starting, at the Indianapolis location? And keep in mind, these students will also in 2 years be making a transition to West Lafayette. So yeah, Jacob, what kind of advice would you give an incoming IE student?
My advice would be to stay organized. This was something I didn't think I needed to do my freshman year because I was like, I only have like 3 assignments. I'll be fine. But, as I went through in my college career, the more events that I had and the more like compound homework assignments and more projects that I had, I really just needed to find something or some way to like write it down and visualize how much workload I actually have. So I was able to start out with like a to-do list that I just wrote down every day. Now I'm using a planner and I literally open it every single day, check off all of my homework assignments. It's really fun to check it off too. So that's another bonus. But yeah, it really helps me stay organized, helps me plan out my entire week and my entire month and figure out when I need to study for certain assignments, when I need to start prepping for others. So yeah, that's the biggest thing for me.
Musa, do you want to go next? And then Abby?
Yeah, I would say like make sure to take advantage of the resources that we have for you here. Things like office hours, help rooms, like recitation even. Everything here is like for your success. And like if you're struggling in any of your courses, then the best thing to do is to get help with whatever you're struggling with. I mean, like you could go to your faculty or TA office hours and get like direct help for a specific class, or maybe you could get help from like a peer tutor who is like one of your classmates who is like tutoring for a specific course. But yeah, there's so many resources that are here to help you succeed, and so many people don't really take advantage of those. So definitely make sure that you like try to.
Hey, Abby, what about you? What is your piece of advice for an incoming freshman?
I would say get involved, and to make that a little bit more tangible, kind of like what Jacob said earlier, I would pick maybe one organization or club that is geared towards your major or more on that professional side, but then also make sure you pick one that is something you're interested in. Maybe you're passionate about sustainability. I know I joined a green club my freshman year and I'm no longer in it, but it was really great that freshman year to meet a lot of people through that, and it was something I was really interested in at that time. So definitely recommend picking one that is related to your major and more on that professional side, but also doing one that is what you're interested in and gives you a really good break from your classes.
I think it's all great advice. And my advice would be a combination of all three things, what all of you have said. And I think it's really good too to keep an open mind and maybe join things that you might not even know that you're interested in. Because keep an open mind, say yes to things, but you do have to manage your time. But get to know as many people, network, go to office hours. I know that's always a good piece of advice because I think sometimes you talked about using the resources and asking for help, but I think sometimes students, especially when they're first year students, it's a little daunting to go to an office hour of one of your instructors. So those would be the things that, I would say as, good pieces of advice. We are almost at time, and I want to wrap this up by reminding everyone that there are opportunities to visit. If you haven't visited yet, we would love to meet you. There are some Purdue's for me. I think some of you are familiar with those because I'm sure some of you who have registered are already signed up for those. Space is tight, but there are wait lists. We also have engineering information sessions that we would highly encourage you to come to. There are daily admission sessions that the admissions office sets, you can find these opportunities by going to the Office of Future Engineers. Just do a Google search, Purdue Office of Future Engineers, and it will highlight these opportunities and you can register for those. And the last thing too, I want to say is, you know, again, congratulations. We're glad you're here. Thank you to the panel. Abby, thank you for giving the presentation. You did a fantastic job. And Musa and Jacob, thank you for being here too. And mostly to the audience. Thank you for taking the time to spend the evening with us, spend an hour with us, and send us your questions. Okay. We really want to make sure that everything gets answered. Have a good evening, everyone.